The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
And I guess this will count as our spooky episode, since Halloween is next week.
Is it next week? I thought it was this week. Well, I'm thinking about the weekend, not necessarily Halloween day.
Halloween itself is next Tuesday, so a week from the time we are recording this. So, what are we smoking this week, Brad?
This week we have the ONYX Vintage.
I think it's ONYX.
ONYX?
ONYX.
ONYX?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, the ONYX Vintage
There's no
Nicaragua.
T in it.
There's no T in ONYX. Have you never spelled ONYX?
No.
Don't you remember the band ONYX?
There was a band?
Yeah, it was like an old rap group in the 90s.
Wow. No, I did not know that.
Slam. Da, 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 da.
I'm gonna.
They kind of mixed metal and rap back in the day before that was like cool. Yeah, like go download some ONYX after we're done here.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got the Vintage Nicaragua, and like the name says, this is an all Nicaraguan cigar.
And the vintage comes from the fact that the wrapper is a Habano seed from 2019. So basically, this isn't a limited edition cigar, though. It's going to be an ongoing cigar, but once they run out of 2019 tobacco, then it'll move on to another vintage of tobacco. So this is supposed to be a new ongoing series.
I kind of feel like there needs to be some sort of a thing, because I just feel like vintage has just become a marketing ploy. Like when I think vintage, I'm thinking like stuff from like the 1920s and 30s and stuff of that nature.
Yeah, maybe the 50s, but yeah. But now if you turn on vintage radio, it's shit from the 80s. Or no, it used to be
It's
shit from
probably
the,
like
now it's the shit from the 90s.
Early like 2000s.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's if you ever want to feel old, just turn on the fucking oldies station, and it's like, oh, god damn it, it's the 90s. This isn't old. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm old. Fuck.
I don't need any help feeling old. I know dude. We got chiropractor memberships. We've officially.
Yeah, I mean, and this ONYX has a like you set off a very brassy bands. I mean, hey, Halloween, it is kind of the color of candy corn. We got the gold and the white and black. Or if
I mean, kind of like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, it's kind of Halloween colors.
I mean, that looks like a circle. Or it looks like a saw blade.
Which will go with this week's topic. We're talking about the brand new Saw movie. We went and seesaw. Or yeah, something like that.
Seesaw. Hey, do you want a seesaw? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to play a game.
It's it's a lot of up and downs in that movie. And if you've got to play a game, you should call in the Strike Force. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Use your promo code Cigar Nerds for 20% off your order. Keep you all caffeinated for those murder games.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else. I'll just stand by and, see if you have the desire to live or not.
And maybe it'll help you have the desire to live.
Moral support, I suppose.
Yeah. So,
we'll see how that works.
What do you think of the first? It's supposedly a medium plus cigar.
I'm thinking more medium. Right off the bat, it's relatively smooth. I'm still trying to get over whatever shit I had, so my taste is still not where it needs to be, but right now, more woody than anything. There is a touch of lingering spice on the back of the tongue. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to get more into the cigar and see if maybe my palate will open up a little bit more. Cause just right off the bat, I'm just like, I'm, I'm a Nicaraguan cigar smoker. Like I love a good Nicaraguan. So I think my taste buds are just off, but it's leaving a little bit to be desired just right off the rip.
Yeah, right. It's very one note so far. Like I'm not tasting like a complex flavor. I'm kind of getting like just one flavor out of it.
That's kind of
so
where
far.
I am, but I've still got some nasal shit and some throat shit going on. So, like, smell influences so much of taste, and like I'm still kind of stopped up. So I'm not where I need to be to properly like try to. So hopefully this cigar will loosen some shit up, and after the segment, I'll be able to actually talk about it in a little bit more detail.
Yeah. Well, with that, would you like to play a game? And welcome back. Dust off your Billy puppets, because Saw is back. And surprising, I mean, because this movie came out during all the strikes, so there was literally no promotion for this that I really remember seeing. I just kind of happened to drive by. I'm like, oh, fuck, there's a new Saw movie out?
Well, I listened to a lot of CZ's World and, Kill Count and, like, if there's a YouTuber covering horror type stuff, like, so that's how it ended up on my radar. Plus, I'm like, yeah, it's really close to Halloween. Like,
we may have mentioned it on a previous news segment, but yeah, it was like one of those, like, there was no... I never saw like an ad for it anywhere, and then like I said, so I knew there was one coming, but I had no idea when. And then like I was kind of having to drive by the theater. I'm like, oh, Saw's out.
But yeah, I mean, for folks that are on the fence after maybe have seen Spiral or whatever, I would absolutely encourage you to go see this. This is probably one of my all-time favorite Saw movies since the original Saw 1 and 2.
I mean, we'll get into specific, but very different feel in some ways to previous Saw movies that I kind of enjoyed it, and I'll expand on that a little more later. But yeah, and that was the thing too. The one trailer I think I saw for it, I'm like, when does this movie take place? Because pretty sure John Kramer died in like the third movie.
Did you see a body?
Yes, he got autopsied in like the fourth movie.
Yeah, but the same thing happened to Michael Myers, and he still got up and stabbed people in the face. Like,
this is one like, 'cause we did a Saw episode.
Dude, I think that was like the infancy of our podcast.
I think it was because we did talk about Spiral, because it was right after Spiral came out, whenever that was. So it was probably at least 2-3 years ago. But it's been so long since I've watched them that I literally had to go back and like, I watched it, and then like the next day I went home and like watched the kill counts recaps of all the other movies, so I could like remember what transpired.
Well, I mean, and that's one of the great, or one of the very bad things about this film, depending on how you is. This probably has one of the most convoluted story arcs and timelines out of any franchise out there.
But in the same thing, which Saw likes to like drop a little thing in one of the movies and it doesn't pay off at all during that movie, and then like a movie or 2 movies later, that little thing that they showed you in the previous movie finally like, oh, this was what that was. And I didn't realize at the time, because like, all right, the plot of this movie, and it's not a prequel, not a reboot, it's, I don't think I've ever heard this term before, midquel. It takes place between the first and second movies. So our original Jigsaw, aka John Kramer, is still alive, but as we know from the previous movies, dying of cancer, and he is trying to go to Mexico to have a experimental illegal treatment that supposedly will cure his cancer. Well, when I went back and started watching the recaps of all the previous movies, there is I don't remember which number it is, but they have like this, all these people who work for an insurance company that tries to find ways to get out of paying for procedures and whatnot. And it shows how they got on his radar as he went in there, like
the hit squad.
Like, hey, I'm trying to get this approval for this experimental treatment, and they refuse him. And I'm like, I wonder if that's where they got the plot of this movie. Is like when that.
Oh yeah,
that was him trying to get the money for the shit he did in this movie. And so I'm like, oh, it is. It's like, yeah, they connect things into like weird little ways that like don't pay off for like fucking years.
But it's, it's just funny to me. This is almost like, what is it, Saw 4 or 5, where the dude fakes being a Saw victim, does the book tour, and, it's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you want to talk about some shit that you never experienced firsthand? Well, come on, motherfucker. But at the end, most of the time, like, my dark psyche, like, I can almost get behind, some of his philosophies. This one, I'm like, this just felt like pure vengeance. Like, you can say it's not personal and don't make it... This shit was absolutely personal.
Yeah, that's kind of one reason why this is, like, one of my favorite of the franchise, is because it's much more personal. Like, previously, he's very detached. He's very... I guess scientific in his approach to, like, I'm trying to cure the world by fucking people up. But I mean, and he rarely does his victims actually ever see him. It's all, recordings and them dealing with the Billy puppet, where this is very much he's in the room with them watching this shit going on. And it's like very much and the people that he is fucking up are despicable, horrible people. This is like the first movie where, like, Saw's kind of the good guy. You're kind of cheering for John Kramer in this film, which is vastly different than, like, previous films.
But that's one of the things I've actually really enjoyed about this franchise, is most of the time it's like, the first Saw, for instance. Like, I get it, you're fiending for your drugs, but you decide you're going to rob this, clinic and... cause a, fucking miscarriage or whatever. Like, life for a life, motherfucker. Like, I can absolutely get behind that. There's very few times, like, that, or the one where, Chester from Linkin Park, is playing the skinhead Nazi and has to peel himself off of the
glued to the
car seat.
Seat.
Like some of those, like, I'm just like, it's over the top. It's great. I kind of love it. Like, that's one of the things, like, not necessarily from either the vengeance or, the moral compass aspect, but just to be like, what kind of crazy fucked up shit are they going to come up with, and who the fuck are they about to inspire with the next ideas? Because
I'm so glad they kind of made this take place during the time of classic.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like with this franchise,
because Tobin Bell, man, it's like, he is just so good as that character. Like the Saw 4, 5, and 6 or whatever, where it was like one of his proteges, the dirty cop being Jigsaw, was not as good as like when Tobin Bell was like the main guy.
This franchise absolutely will do anything to keep Tobin Bell around. Like, any way they can, because they know that, I mean, he's such an iconic, I mean, dude, like,
it's like,
when was the first movie? In 2004, I think.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's
2003-ish.
Yeah, because it's one of those, like, it's been around a while. Saw 2004 was the first Saw movie. So yeah, almost 20 years of Saw at this point. Yeah, because those, it's like Spiral was not good. I mean,
Spiral is what Spiral is, and it's not.
it was a copycat killer that was kind of inspired by Jigsaw, but he wasn't. Where John Kramer is an engineer and can build these elaborate traps. Everything was very rudimentary in Spiral. They weren't nearly as epic as the shit that John Kramer built, or even like the shit like that his proteges built based on like, hey, I know I'm dying. I got a lot of work to do, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave y'all with like plans and like, you know, victim lists. Take care of my shit after I'm gone. And I like where this starts off with him like in cancer treatment, talking to the doctors, and they're like, you know, we've done all we can. And you see him watching an orderly try to steal from another patient. And it is kind of the image from like the poster of this movie is like a guy with like some kind of weird goggle hose thing on his head that's like making an X, which that's your first Saw trap, and then it turns out it's not even real. It's like him in his head, like, all right, this guy's fucking shit up. Like, here's exactly how I'm gonna kill him, and then it like flashes back.
Well, it's not even about it's not even about killing him. It's I'm going to make him, show the value of life. And, you can either play by the rules or you can, face the consequence.
But the dude's a janitor. So, like, the saw trap is, like, 2 vacuum hoses hooked up to the guy's eyeballs and his hand in, like, this traction machine. And he's like, all right, you've got to stop your thieving ways. So you got to crank the dial up, which slowly breaks each one of your fingers, or the vacuum is going to suck out your eyeballs. But like it goes to that whole thing. And I love the image of like, him failing, and you see there's like a little glass viewing window on the damn vacuum cleaner. So you see the eyeballs drop into the fucking thing at the end.
Well, that was absolutely a fucking nod to Eli Roth and Hostel. Like,
yeah.
Everybody remembers the damn eyeball scene from, the Hostel film.
I don't know why fucking with eyes, man, is like that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like the one where the guy's like, you have a freaking key and you're embedded in your head. You got to pull out your eyeball to get to the key, and it's like, oh, that's probably one of the ones that like makes me like cringe the most, is dude having to like cut his own freaking eye out and shit. Yeah, then it cuts back to the guy like changing his mind and putting the stuff back, and then he like kind of steps out and he's like, good choice. So he's like, he's like, all right, this guy, chose to amend his ways before I had to test him. So, but yeah, like that guy just like did not know how close he came to being fucked up.
But would he have did that had somebody not have caught him in the act or witnessed it? Because it's real easy to have a sudden change of heart when it's like, oh shit, I could lose my job, I could lose my freedom, like, this is the wrong guy to fuck off in front of because I could actually lose my life.
Yeah, because I don't know if... wasn't really clear if he put the stuff back after he noticed John, or he was doing that and then John stepped out. Like, I'd have to watch it again. But yeah, it's like... But I just like that, like, you've made a wise choice. It's like, you don't know how close you came to getting your eyeball sucked out, homie.
But I don't, a lot of good twists in this film. However, I kind of pegged it, from the get-go. Like, Rachel's like, I did not see that coming at all. And I was like, I kind of saw that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're going for some misdirection, and this is where we're going. But I will say, like, it's a great film for these times because that's exactly how scammers work, where, oh yeah, coincidentally you run into this guy, and then, oh, there's this other guy. Oh, wait, they're partners. And,
yeah.
Oh, this guy. Anytime somebody's like, oh yeah, it's my trusted and loyal, like, hold on. So I can't get my own means of transportation or anything else. Like, the only radar you're trying to stay off of is that IRS one.
But then again, like, I've experienced the going to Mexico and having a medical procedure. And it is very much like that, where it's like, all right, we have a guy that's going to come pick you up and then drive you across the border to our hospital. I mean, their version was a lot shadier, and when I got there, it was an actual hospital, not something in an abandoned warehouse.
It wasn't a black van that cut you off and got you at gunpoint and was like.
But we did get taken to a office complex that didn't really have like signs on the outside. And it was a really nice high end hospital on the inside of this building, but it was very low key on the outside. But yeah, so he's in like a cancer support group, and then later on, like, and you see him like at a coffee shop somewhere, like writing out his will, which they purposely like doesn't date it, so you're still like not really sure where in the timeline this takes place. And then he sees a guy that was like from his cancer group that was, he's like, hey man, you look, you're doing well. He's like, oh yeah, I found this doctor who has like a experimental treatment. It's kind of illegal everywhere, but like, and it's part drugs, part surgery. And he shows him a scar, and he's like, they kind of changed their locations, but here's this website still works. Like, send an email here, and maybe they can do something for you. And and he's not a dumb guy, but when you're at your,
what else you got to lose?
Yeah, when you're out of options, he's like, and does like looks like a decent amount of research. For a scam group, they did like.
Well, I mean,
really
it's just like the
a good job of backing up their
where
scam.
It's like, hey, we noticed some suspicious activity on your Wells Fargo account, and if you don't fucking look close, like, they use all the Wells Fargo.
Oh yeah.
Letterheads and all of that shit, and it's like, all right, fuck that email. Let me go to my bank account, because I'm not about to fucking click anything in there.
No shit. I mean, hell, I've seen emails come to us that look like they're from our boss, and then if you like, I mean, it even has like the right email address, but when you like hover over the email, it's like, oh no, that's just a hyperlink to a whole different email address. It's like, I was like, yeah, this doesn't sound right. Like, I'm gonna delete this. But yeah, it was like, I mean, they had websites and videos and like, hell, I'm not even sure if like the original doctor was actually like real, and they were just using like old video of this guy to set up this fucking scam. But yeah, of all the people to rip off, these people decide to scam John Jigsaw fucking Kramer. And then he just basically becomes Batman. It's like, this is like the one movie where you're like, there is not a finer girl you're cheering for. It's like, nah, like, kill these motherfuckers.
I don't know. I mean, I'll say that the young drug addict girl, like, and maybe that's because, you flash back to, Amanda's test and everything else, and, but, like, that's the one that's like, well, fuck. Like, yeah, you fucked up. You did what you're supposed to. And, well, fate decided a different thing.
Yeah, because he gets picked up by, they've got, the guy who's the...
But it is kind of strange, though. Like, I've never gone to a hospital or, like, hey, you're about to be prepped for surgery. Here's some, local tequila that's like supposed to be good luck or whatever, and it's like,
well, the doctor says like, well, you've got surgery tomorrow, you can't have any of that yet. But yeah,
so it's just kind of weird that you would bring that out, like, knowing like, hey, these people are going to be in surgeries and on medications. Like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should start drinking tequila before my procedures.
Yeah, I mean, and they even got the guy who's like wrapping up his procedure, like, so it's like, oh, there's a guy leaving as I'm coming in who's So obviously this shit's not,
It's
I'm not the
just
only one
voodoo.
doing this.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and they got he's a taxi guy that picks him up and takes him to the medical center, which is in some, like, I do like he when he's hanging out on the property, he sees like these antennas and shit. So like after he wakes up from his surgery, he's in a hotel away from the thing. But he's like the girl that supposedly like ran the house, who turned out to be Gabriella, who turned out to be a local drug addict that was part of the scam. He's like, I want to thank them because, of course they give him like a drug cocktail, so they probably jacked him up full of fucking B vitamins and whatever else, so he actually felt better. As soon as the medication wears off, cancer's gonna come take him out. But it's like all part of the scam. They wake up, like, oh yeah, probably gave him something that's gonna boost his mood for a few days.
Whatever that cocktail was, I'd probably just try to keep, because like.
Hell, it made you feel better, or it could have just been the power of suggestion.
But then again, like, even if it's a power of suggestion, like, I mean, that's oftentimes a lot of the make or break, for any kind of procedure, right? Is your mentality, going into it and your mentality coming out of it. Like, that's the difference, I think a lot of times, like, people break bones and it's like, no, I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to mend myself. These, like, verse, well, I broke a bone. I better, not use it, not do anything for, 8 months. Like, well, if you don't work that, like any muscle, like you're going to lose that muscle. And some things you lose and you don't get back. That's why they make hymns for men.
Oh, but yeah, he's smart enough to like see the antennas from his hotel and like, all right, based on these measurements, that place I was at has to be in like this location, and goes over there to like, he's going to bring a bottle of Gabrielle's tequila to thank her for being nice to him. And then it's like, there's nobody here. And here's the fucking hospital room's abandoned. And oh, wait, here's a fucking DVD of like brain surgery. And he's like, because he hadn't taken his bandage, like, oh, don't take your bandages off. We'll come by and change your bandages in a couple days. It needs to stay dry. And he like pulls it off, and it's like there's nothing there. And he's like, motherfuckers, you scammed me. And this taking place earlier in the series, Amanda is back as well. And so he calls homegirl like, hey, come on down to Mexico. We got some work to do. Shawnee Smith returning as Amanda Young. But like the first dude he gets, because he like remembers homeboy like showing him some like landmark in Mexico. He's like, the fucking tourists always want me to take them here. And he's basically just hung out and waited till the homeboy showed up with some tourists and kidnapped his ass. And his like first little dude wakes up with like 2 explosive devices like hooked to his arms. And it's like, your only way out is to cut him out of your give us your pound of flesh. But before then,
I guess that was high enough up on the forearms, because like I was looking at that and I'm like, man, there's a lot of veins, a lot of shit there. Like, you start cutting and digging, like, especially just having fucking X-Acto knives, like you got no precision.
He's
like,
playing basically Edward 40 hands. He's like, you got scalpels. He's like, I haven't had time to build anything cool, so it's best I can do with some like C4 and some duct tape. But before then, he questioned him and found out where all the motherfuckers that were involved. One guy, the anesthesiologist, the whatever the cab driver was also the fake doctor. The anesthesiologist is literally like a local vet tech. And then I forgot what the other girl involved, what her deal was in the real world.
So one of the girls, she was just basically,
their
rave girl.
Nurse. Yeah.
Just, hey, I need a quick fix, like any means necessary.
And gets jacked up in the bathroom. But yeah, like this one's like so much more personal. Like it's like normally it's like people are dealing with a recording or whatnot, but literally like he's in the room watching them. Like they can see him watching them up on like, in a balcony, like office in some kind of industrial building, which I believe ends up being the same building where they had the surgery. But yeah, homeboy, like the first dude is like with the, yeah, like, and like everyone has to watch each other go through the tests, which is, they're being in like an audience for each person's like test is like just up the horror factor. Like, can you imagine like watching someone go through a saw test and knowing you're like, that's going to be me eventually?
Yeah, like I'm about to be next, and there is no refusal or, easy way out, Now, granted, like, I guess at least with actual Jigsaw's traps, there is a way to win.
And
but
he promised
by
you,
and
if you
large,
win, you're going to be fucked up. But and I forgot what movie it was where it showed like the Saw survivors, group, and everyone's like, yeah, and I kind of feel better now because I went through this thing. And the one was like, motherfucker, I just lost my arm. How is this like helping me? Where it's like, I guess, results vary on surviving a Jigsaw one.
well, I mean, at the same time, you get some pretty badass bragging rights. Be like, yeah, I did this.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't come out more empowered, like,
you survive a Saw trap, you either become his apprentice, or you're just kind of traumatized and disabled afterward, but you're still alive. You get like a get out of Saw free card, I guess.
I got this sweet scarification here on my side, Anyway. So,
but yeah, the first guy, he's like, you got to like do brain surgery on yourself. He's like, it's possible to like, your brain will heal after like, cutting out hunks of it. So you need to cut out a certain amount of your brain and put it in this fucking vial.
And that to me, like, I was like, that's kind of where it goes against like the rule. Like even if you were to cut the brain and like, to be like, it's gonna slowly eat away the brain, like to go on the scale, and it's like, if you've gone through the exercise, like,
and he only gives him like 3 minutes too, so I'm like, was it possible to survive these, or is like it's the illusion of survival? I mean, yeah, technically he could have got enough, but yeah, and then the thing like closes on his head and like fucking fries his ass.
It's like a damn like Iron Maiden, but Aztec.
Yeah. And then you got other homegirl who's
that's the, like, once it closes, like, I just kind of laughed out loud. Granted, like, there were 2 other people in the auditorium with me, so it's just like, yeah, I got a fucked up sense of humor. That's just how it is.
And then you got the other lady who's hooked to a thing that's like going to slowly guillotine her, and it's like, all right, you've got to pull out bone marrow, a certain amount of bone marrow to like, so it's like, here's you like an ancient bone saw, like fucking whatever cable saw, so you gotta tourniquet yourself up and cut your leg off, and then pull out enough of bone marrow to satisfy the sacrifice here, or it's gonna like chop your head off.
I don't feel like that belt would have been enough of a tourniquet.
Probably not. I mean, you gotta.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to wrench.
You gotta be able to twist it and shit. I don't think you're gonna get enough.
Unless it was like a specialized belt where you just have eyelets, running down the entire way. But it's like,
yeah, because if you're gonna use a belt, you gotta like put a stick or something in there to like tighten it down. You're not gonna get enough force just tightening a belt like regularly.
But yeah, that was one that kind of made me hurt, because I'm like, not only did I just, have to fucking saw through all the flesh, bone, sinew, and everything else, but now I gotta jam this fucking thing up into the exposed bone, like
suck it out.
Like, I don't see...
Or what about using her fucking intestines for a rope? They're like, they've left us alone in this room for a second. Like, we can get the phone that's on that cart, but we're gonna need a rope to get it. And they fucking yank out homegirl's like intestines and start trying to lasso the. Like, I almost laughed there in that scene.
No, I absolutely did. Like, I was just
intestine
like...
ropes. I'm like, oh, this is gross, but it's kind of funny.
Always... Why do you have that stupid fucking rope? All to, be like, ha, it was a ploy. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, because, they wanted... They couldn't... You hear John on the phone with someone. I'm assuming it's the detective apprentice, like...
Of course it's fucking Hoffman. Of course it is.
And it's like, yeah, thanks for finding all these people for me. He's like, yeah, I couldn't find the one guy. You're going to have to figure that one out on your own. And I figure he meant dude that back in America that, told him about the fake thing. But apparently it was the other patient that was in on the whole deal. Because that's who she called, because turns out it's secretly the main girl, Cecile's boyfriend, who's in on the whole thing. So yeah, they let them get the phone that you find out later to lure him in, so they could add him to the game. But
at least he came rocking a Glock.
Yeah, but to back it up, kind of few things that we said this was a very personal movie for Jigsaw's character. But also, I liked having Amanda back because there was that kind of conflict with her, too, where she's like, Gabriella, she's like, this is me. Like,
I was there. I know what a demon this is. Like,
yeah, where, he's trying to, like, it's kind of like, I guess, a test of her to see if, like, hey, you're going to have to take this over someday. Are you going to be able to do this without emotional involvement? And she's kind of conflicted about whether or not, we should punish this. She, out of all the people in the group, she was probably the least kind of responsible for what happened. She was kind of in a place where she felt that she had to do this to survive. But he's like, no, like, yeah, she fucked up, and she has the same chance everyone else has of surviving this shit.
But I do like where, she showed a little bit of, kind of leadership, or, it's like, all right, fine, I'm going to do this, but this dude's next.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to survive this test.
Yeah.
But I love when she's like, you could save me. And she's like, I just did. You don't realize it.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna give you the one that's probably gonna suck, but have the most option for you to survive. And when it is finally her turn, it's like using a freaking X-ray machine as a blowtorch.
That's what I feel like when I'm on a cell tower, just getting baked by RF. Like, here I am, take me.
Yeah, and she's chained up by like one hand and one leg, and she's like, "You're gonna have to break your hand and foot to like get out of the thing while this thing is cooking you." And she, that moment when she like breaks like her foot and like swings away out from she's like, oh, I've survived. And then no, the thing just starts resetting itself. Is like, fuck, I gotta break the other thing now. That's like that like little slight moment of relief, like, oh yeah, I did it. And then it like, no, fuck, I'm still in the trap.
But I mean, what you just gonna dangle there? That's gotta be uncomfortable as fuck too.
Yeah.
Like,
trying to get the strength to whack yourself hard enough to break your hand when you're like just hanging there.
I mean, somebody should give her a baseball contract.
Yeah. But she does survive, and he's like, all right, we need to get her some medical attention. He's true. But then turns out, guy shows up, and he's like, I'm just a victim too. I want my money back. And he's like, all right, yeah, we'll take care of you, man. Just only rule is don't use the gun, and just kind of hang out, watch what we're doing, and you can go about your business once we're done with these people. But
I mean, that could never in reality happen. It's like, if you're behind the pig mask or whatever, and there's no positive, maybe you could leave the loose end. But, you know, he knows you. He knows your apprentice. Like, you know.
And at this point, you don't. Obviously, John knows he's not who he says he is. But as an audience, we don't know if this is just another victim or an accomplice yet. You know, we don't get that till like all Saw movies. You get the flashback at the end where it shows like how everything was actually connected and how, you know, Jigsaw was ahead of the game this whole time. But yeah, as an audience member, it could go either way. This guy could be just another victim or a secret accomplice, which you find out that later on that, you know, when he tortured the first guy, he gave up everybody, including this dude. But yeah, like, you know, he ends up freeing the girl and she ends up killing freaking Gabriella, which I think this, because if you remember in the later movies, Jigsaw and Amanda had a falling out because she was like, she was rigging traps that had
where
no
there
escape.
was no survival.
Because she was like, no, your idea of everyone deserves a shot is like, no, these people are fucking trash and they need to die. I kind of think that's where she flipped, was that, you know, because she's like, you know, Gabriella survived and then this bitch killed her. Like, these people don't deserve John's redemption. So it's like that kind of attitude flip we see in the later movies. I think this is where that this incident is what, you know, triggered her to be like, nah, fuck these people. They all need to die.
It's just crazy to me the amount of, like, where do you have all of this shit at your disposal? Just at the ready. Like, and it's like, yeah, I'm a civil. It's like, wouldn't you be like a mechanical engineer or something like that? Like, it's like, I can help you plot lines.
He's like civil engineer and an architect. I think he designed buildings at some point. But yeah, he's like a fucking, could be building shit for NASA instead of like murder machines. Or he could be building murder machines for NASA. You know, like some of these Boston, you know, we need a Jigsaw set in modern times and see what he can do with a Boston Dynamics dog.
God. We've already seen that, you know, Terminator is already a thing. Just go back and watch those. It'd be about the same. Can we get Tobin Bell in a fucking Terminator movie?
But yeah, and this is also like the first. We said about this being like a more personal story for him. You get to see a lot more heart out of him. Like, you see him like befriend the local kid whose father is like the caretaker,
you
and
know,
he's like,
fix his, you know, bike wheel and stuff, and
yeah, he's like, doesn't speak English. He's like, what, you know, push. He's like, or no, pull. And he's like, he tells him like the word for pull, and he's like, and then of course like kids outside playing. He's like, oh no, we're gonna see what happens when he has to watch an actual innocent person die. Like, and you know, like I said before, I mean, that's how he found out the plot, is he was going to go take a thank you gift to Gabriella. So you see him like, oh, like, unless you end up on his list, he's actually like a nice dude to people who aren't. It's so weird seeing him being nice and caring to people. It just added like a weird dimension to the character that we've not seen before. And it was like, is Jigsaw the hero of this story? This is fucking wild.
Well, I mean, that's just like, you know, after, you know, each test where the victim survives, you know, he's right there by their side with a first aid kit. That must be one of the world's most badass first aid kits. Like, well, like some bandages and some gauze is not doing a whole hell of a lot here.
Well, if you remember, like, his other apprentice was the doctor. So later on, I mean, he had a surgeon on call, like, hey, just fuck this dude up. Can you come fix this guy?
I'd be like, I don't think we can do anything here.
Johnny's alive, but he's got third degree burns over 90% of his body. So
No. So skin graft?
yeah. Oh. But yeah, so she's like, you're gonna, locks Amanda up, and he's like, you're gonna be a part of your own test, and it's like waterboarding people with blood is probably one of the most metal things I have seen. Where it's like, speaking of seesaws, they put him on a seesaw with the kid, and he's like, tells him like, no pull. Like that's the one spec. So it's like basically they're on like a little balance beam. If one side goes down, it pours blood on tries to drown them in blood. But then if you can kind of pull the cord, it'll switch back to the other guy, and you can kind of back and forth, and I guess like give each other breaks and survive the thing. But he tells the kid like, no, don't pull. Like I'm gonna take this. And that little kid too, like eventually is like, no, I'm not gonna let you die. Like I'm gonna give you a break here, until they finally leave them to their thing and wander off upstairs to find the money. And then they, of course,
I was wondering, like, I mean, there's the greats. I mean, he's an engineer, but I'm like, at some point, when does the blood run out?
Yeah, I mean, is that the game? There's only like 3 minutes worth of blood, so y'all gotta keep sharing the oxygen until. But yeah, as soon as they leave the room, Amanda and him pop their chains because they were expecting to end up this way, but I guess they pretty much thought it was. I thought
it was kind of weird too. Like, why did you not pop the chain sooner? Because it's not like, ding, here's a key. Okay, we undid our locks. Like,
well, they kind of had to wait until they left the room. Because they had to fall into the other trap, which was the actual trap was the upstairs in the office. When they go upstairs to like finds out the gun is like disabled, and they're locked in the office, and it's like, oh yeah, we're filling the room with basically a neurotoxin, and there's only like air for one person. You got to stick your head through this hole, and they have to are y'all gonna share, or your partners here are gonna have to kill each other. And for a second, it's like, wait a minute, like the final trap we put him in obviously took 2 people, and you were the last survivor. Who was the second person that was gonna go in that trap? And then I got you, motherfucker. And then we get the flashback of like him knowing the whole time that homeboy was actually an accomplice and not another victim. And and Haley looks at him and he's like, well, it's not exactly how we planned it, because I guess he figured it was going to be him and Amanda in the dual person trap instead of him and the kid. He's like, but it, like I said, it was going to work out one way or another. Wasn't exactly how we planned this one, but it still kind of turned out how we wanted it to.
It's kind of weird too that, like, should you find yourself overpowered and in one of your traps, that you don't have like a fucking hidden, recess or, something like to.
Maybe that's why in the future movies he's like never on scene. He's like, he's got some accomplice watching the whole thing, or like another victim. You're like, all right, you have to sit here and watch these traps. Because he's like, did that shit once in Mexico and almost got fucked up myself. So I'm going to make sure I'm off site when the shit's going on. That's why he was always like watching remotely from then on out. He's like, yeah, I tried to watch that shit in person once. I nearly got fucked up myself. Got blood bordered. It sucked. And then he gives like the millions of dollars these people had stolen, like gives it to like the little Mexican boy at the end. He's like, you are a true warrior. I mean, whatever the kid's name was. But he's like, yeah, it was kind of, he's like, yeah, here's the money. Go have a life, kid. Like you've got balls. You're fucking 10 years old and you survived. You tried to like save me. Like,
just kind of weird that you'd just be like, hey, here's a handbag full of cash. Like, a little kid does not stand a chance on the street of Mexico with that.
He's gonna get jacked immediately.
Exactly.
But then again, it'd be like, motherfucker, I survived Jigsaw. I'll fuck you up. Or do we get like Saw 11 and it's like the kid is all grown up and he's now like the new Saw? He became John's secret fourth apprentice.
We already know,
See, that's one thing. Like, remember the killer that was revealed in Spiral was kind of Hispanic looking. Like, I'm surprised they didn't tie it in that, like, that kid grew up to be the kid in Spiral, or the dude in Spiral. That would have kind of
not
brought
a copycat. It is an apprentice.
Yeah, like, that would have kind of made that movie a little more,
but there's
I guess,
a
part
lot
of the series.
There's a lot of open ends here.
Yeah, because Cecilia, like, survived. She stuck her head through the hole, ended up killing her partner and sticking her head through the hole. So I don't know if, like, Mexican cops show up and find her stuck there. And he's like, all right, as I'm leaving, I'm going to drop a dime on this bitch. So they arrest her for the whole scam thing. She survived. I'm not going to kill her, but I still think this bitch should go to jail. Or she show up for some kind of revenge at some point.
But once again, that kind of goes back to that whole loose end thing. Like,
hey, they always give us a couple little loose ends that get tied up in other films, but I don't know. This almost felt like
be like, oh, the cops came. Yeah, this guy that calls himself Jigsaw. Yeah, it's John Kramer. We have all of his documents.
But again, she's a criminal, so it's like if I brat him out, I'm gonna go to prison for all the shit I've done. So it's like,
but I mean, you were probably going to prison anyway, right? Like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It could. Yeah, it's like a couple loose ends in this in this film, but then you get kind of a post credit where you see Hoffman, and he's like, I found the guy, and they went and found the dude that had like recommended the doctor to begin with. And sure enough, he was part of the scam. He's like, "Oh, you don't even have a scar. What happened there?"
Where's your scar, Henry?
And even Hoffman's like, "Dude, of all the people you chose to rip off, you chose to rip off him." This is what I call bad luck, dude. Because even Hoffman's just like, "Bro, y'all fucked up." like I can't even do the whole like creepy Jigsaw voice on you because this is fucked up, dude. Y'all picked the wrong man to fuck with. This is kind of hilarious. Which I kind of wanted to see how his little, I don't know, he had some kind of like robot spider thing on him that looked like he was gonna like chew his guts out, but we didn't get a payoff on that. We didn't get to see how how that guy died.
We will next Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if they do that. We start getting more Saw movies, but they set them between Saw movies so we can keep Tobin and Bell around for a few more films.
It's like, yeah, this timeline isn't really convoluted as you think. Like, we're just gonna piece this together here so that it makes like we're gonna have to do like Star Wars. Okay, start with Saw 10, then watch Saw 1, watch Saw 2, skip to Spiral, go back to Saw 4.
Yeah. It's going to be like that conspiracy meme where you see the guy with like all the little threads connecting all the photos and shit. Like, that's going to be us explaining Saw to someone someday.
I mean, we got a lot of wall to work with. Can we post 20 years of... And this person's connected here, and those two, and then it branches out and goes up here, and then...
And then there's a flashback, and then there's the secret guy over here.
And then we rebooted, and nothing ever happened.
And then he met John Connor, went back in
and
time.
John Kramer just wakes up like, damn, that was a fucked up dream.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I should talk to my wife.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be some shit? Be like, and none of this happened.
Yeah. It's that guy from like the one movie that had the fake story. It's all from his book. I just wrote all this shit. Jigsaw never existed. I made all of it up. Oh.
Well, I mean, it does say at the end that, the movie is based on, fictional characters that, any...
Yeah. So, what do you think about our traps we got this time? How better, worse than previous traps we've seen, or is this like, oh, we're back to old school Saw? This is like on the level of the shit we've previously seen.
I mean, they were by and large pretty rudimentary, which I kind of liked, when you start getting into the grand designs and everything else, and it's like materials, somebody's going to be piecing
cat and mouse game.
Exactly.
But then again, then if you look at the time that this movie is actually set, it's kind of early on in the Saw. So maybe he's still kind of perfecting his craft at this point.
He's like, bro, you survived. Here's your cut of the cash. He takes a cut of the cash to try to fund the operation.
Yeah, because if you think back to Saw 1, it was just two dudes in basically an escape room with a saw. You didn't have like the elaborate traps that you got in all the previous movies. So yeah, maybe he gave the kid some of the money and he's like, now I've got a couple $1 million. I can build all kind of crazy shit to fuck people up.
I mean, like, if you're paying for anything electronic, like...
I've heard about that.
This dude just bought a shitload of metal and a shitload of machinery, like... Like, you're the apprentice. You put it on your card. You're the fall girl. You're the fall guy. Like, but he never really takes that approach either, so...
Yeah, there's, is he just Saw's cruising like junkyards on the weekends, picking up scraps and shit.
But at the same time, I want to know where he's training like Amanda and shit. Like, just her ability to be like, "Oh, you're in the backseat and shatter the glass."
Yeah, she's like a fucking ninja, like showing up and murking dudes.
Like, okay, when we're not testing individuals, we're testing ourselves. We're building our minds. We're building our bodies. Jazzercise.
Yeah, because, I mean, Hoffman's got the skill set of, he's a trained investigator. He was a cop, other dude was a doctor. It's like, Amanda was a junkie, but she's the one that's, like, fucking appearing out of nowhere and, like, breaking into houses and kidnapping people for his... Yeah, he's like... It's like Batman or something. Like, I'm going to send you off to like Japan to train with the ninjas for a year to get all these skills you need.
We have a Shaolin monk.
Yeah.
We'll teach you the art of invisibility, all the things, all the abilities.
Yeah, this is the thing that's never been explained in the Saw movies. How'd they get so good at sneaking?
I guess you just really, really don't want to get caught. Or you just hide in plain sight. People only care when you seem to care. So if you don't care and you go about your business nonchalantly,
it's like the ultimate gray man approach. It's like you just kind of just look like everyone else, and until it's time to not look like everyone else. Just walking around with a backpack on. Let me pull my pig mask out of my backpack and go to work.
But yeah, I by and large, I thought the traps were pretty good. The seesaw thing was a little bit over the top, like
bloodboarding.
Like where'd you
get that much blood?
Exactly. Like I mean, I get like where they were in like the pig slaughterhouse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You just got fucking vats of pig carcass everywhere, but. Even those resources are finite, like... But then, too, like, I don't know, like, the whole thing, like, where he takes the dude's gun, and, I mean, I've never tried to reload ammo, but if you're going to disassemble and reassemble bullets, like, I feel like that's going to take a little bit of time.
I mean, it would have been simpler just to remove the firing pin. But yeah, he's, like, taking the lead out and draining the fucking powder out of the individual shells. I'm like, dude, just open that thing up and take the firing pin out. It's going to be a lot less complicated. You're an engineer. You should be able to figure out. You're like, no, I have to do the complicated approach.
But then again, I think it was like Saw 2 where we started getting some of the shotgun traps and stuff. Like, this was... Oh, shit, I need to learn something about firearms.
Yeah. I found a spot where my skills are lacking. I gotta learn the pew. Oh.
But yeah, like I don't know. Those are some of the kind of the things that I'm just like, that's what made like the original Saw. Like anybody has access to a hacksaw and some chain. Like to disassemble a fucking X-ray machine and put it on this like tracing mechanism and everything, like
Yeah, it's like, how long were these people, like, drugged and unconscious? Because that seemed like it took a long time to build that shit. I mean, that's one thing we've not really got. Well, I can't remember, 3 or 4. It showed a little bit of them, like, building stuff. But yeah, we need, like, an A-team, like, montage of, like, them building devices.
But I don't know. Then again, there are probably so many Easter eggs. Like, just going back and watching, some recaps, and it's like 175 Easter eggs you missed. Yep, I missed 174 of those fuckers.
Yeah, well, we do see him, like, when he's, I guess, recovering in Mexico, and he's, like, sitting on the balcony having a coffee or whatnot. He's got his little notebook there. And you see, like, as he's, like, flipping through his notebook, there's sketches for some of the traps you see in the earlier / later movies. So he's, like, sketching out the fucking head claw thing. The
reverse bear trap.
Yeah, you see that as one of the, like, little diagrams in his notebook that he's sketching on. I'm like, that's cool as shit. That it's like that it's you kind of see some of that stuff being made or designed early on.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish they would do another, like, the original Saw they did, like the making of. Kind of wish they would do some, like, now that we've gotten into some more complex stuff, like
the making of, like, the props. Yeah, I would like to see, like, how, like, the Hollywood design, prop master, how they design these fucking these traps that they come up with. Because I've not watched a lot of the behind the scenes of any of the Saw movies, but that would be something worth watching, like a documentary on building that shit.
Is somebody actually had to think, build, and execute. So somewhere out there is the actual jigsaw.
Yeah. Oh, and they probably work for, like, a haunted house somewhere.
Dude, speaking of haunted houses, what the hell is with the lack of chainsaws this year?
I don't know, like, the only chainsaw I hit was, like, there was a chainsaw at Netherworld, but yeah, it's like we've been to 3 haunts so far this season, and no chainsaws in, like, the last 2. I mean, this is just kind of like, all right,
has gas just gotten too expensive?
Yeah, they can't afford, or is it like 2 of the haunts we went to, they kind of end inside the building. Is it like a fire code now? We're like, oh no, you can't have a running chainsaw inside the house anymore. It's got to be somewhere outside where they didn't have, like, an outside part. But yeah, I was like, that's weird. There's no chainsaw on this on it. And then we went to another one, like, the fuck's a chainsaw, man? Like, is everyone like, oh, that's, like, too cliche now? Like, motherfucker, it's classic for a reason. That's how you know you're done. It was like, literally, we walked out of the first one and we're like, is it over? There's no chainsaw. There's nothing that tells me, like, this is over. When I see the chainsaw guy, I know, like, oh, we've reached the end. But there was no, like, no closure in these 2 haunted houses that we went to. So yeah, that was we didn't see elevators either, but but yeah, it was like, where the fuck's the chainsaw guy? I don't know, it's kind of disturbed me because it just kind of leaves you, like, where you're like, oh, we're outside now, we've exited.
And that's where you let your guard down and chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I did almost get taken out by one girl trying to run back through the haunted for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, are we playing football right now? Because I'm about to body check you. Like,
oh.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't know. Saul's one of the franchises that's way up there on my list. And this film surpassed all expectations that I had.
Well, as we kind of wrap up our game we've been playing, what are you thinking of this cigar?
One-dimensional.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
it's not
just
as complex as a saw trap.
The Puro. But what flavor's there? I mean, it tastes like all Nicaraguan tobacco with a little bit of spice from the Habano, and that's what you get. Like you're not.
Yeah, it's
it's not an overly complex. It's vastly different than in most cigars that AJ has a hand in.
Yeah, it's it's not complex. It's a solid example of a cigar. If you want a cigar that's a cigar-ass cigar that has like one flavor throughout, it's consistent is the best thing I can say about it. And it's decent amount of strength. It's in that medium range, but for guys like us who smoke a lot, it's kind of boring. There's not a lot of complexity to it.
And that was the thing that I know I'm not tasting the cigar properly right now because I've still got a shit ton of mucus draining down my throat that, I'm like, I'm not going to cough into the mic. Not going to cough into the mic.
But
so I thought my, palate was kind of skewed. So it's interesting that you're having...
Yeah, because out of the two of us, you're the one that usually picks up individual flavors better than I do. But even me, I'm like, I can't really give you a note of anything. But it's just one flavor. There's been no transition, no like complexity to it. It's like I taste one thing and that's all I taste, and there's no change to it. Which is like I said, if you like just a solid plain cigar, yeah, it's good to go. But for us who are used to smoking some shit that's a little bit stronger or more complex flavor profile that changes throughout the cigar, it's like it's kind of boring to us.
But
But it's still a cigar, so
yeah,
we good.
Absolutely. Even a bad cigar is still a good cigar.
Yeah, it's very rare that I've had cigars that I'm like, all right, that was nice, but I'm not paying for another one. But I've had very few like, oh, that's just a bad fucking cigar, unless you're getting a Philly Blunt or some gas station shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even consider those cigars. So
those are
but
oversized
I
cigarettes.
think it is kind of interesting, because at least anywhere that I've looked up this cigar, there's no tasting notes, no nothing on
when you Google
anybody's
a cigar,
website.
There's usually like, oh, it's got this flavor profile. Nothing. All the websites we were like, maybe it's just us. So we're like between intro and main segment, we're like looking up the cigar on different websites, and no one has a flavor profile. I'm like, maybe we're not the only ones that can't pick up a flavor profile on this cigar.
Want to find somebody that just has that kind of refined palate that just picks up on be like, what do you taste here? Because that's oftentimes like, it's funny how you can influence people, like be like, oh yeah, there's a creamy vanilla, even though there's no vanilla in this, like, and they're like,
yeah. So maybe sometimes that flavor profile is just like, oh, this is what other people tasted. Yeah, I can see that. Where it's like, when there's no information, you're like, I can't take anything out on this.
But
thing.
even like, with the smoke being in the air, normally I can pick up nuances just from, but like, that's why I'm like, man, is my taste just fucked up? Because my sinuses are fucked up, so I'm not smelling, I'm not tasting right. But it's very interesting that or you're like, God damn it, he didn't say anything. I don't know what the fuck to say.
Yeah, I'm very much like I said. I guess earthy is about the only thing I can pick up. But yeah, it's very, very one note. And with that,
maybe 2019 was a very,
plain year. that was pre-plague, so it was like, creativity was all gone then.
Nothing exciting was happening.
Yeah. So we'll be right back with some science. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com and on the ESO Network, esonetwork.com. And don't forget, smoke them if you got them. Like, comment, and subscribe.